We're pleased to welcome you to our Native American History Month presentation, part of the larger VIVA Florida 500 celebration of the 500-year anniversary of the state of Florida. And today we have a couple of speakers and presenters with us. First off, Mr. Willie Johns of the Athatiki Museum from the Seminole tribe of Florida, and also Mr. John Griffin of the Black Seminoles. And so they have many things, and I'll just leave it.
So much for good afternoon. That's good. Most of the afternoon at the other campus was about 30 minutes away. My name is Willie Johns, like you said, and I'm a Cow Creek Seminole, and a lot of my people. I'm from the Oconee, and I'm from the Wildcat clan. So today, the Seminoles, we still practice matrilineal, and we still have 8 clans here in Florida today. At the beginning, before Europeans, there was over 56 clans. So by the end of 3 wars, over a 50-year period, we have 8, and there's some in the Oklahoma territory, that surrendered. So it's my ancestors that were they migrated into Florida. Our homeland is Alabama. Everybody's familiar with the Southeastern Conference. That's us. But that's our homeland, southeastern United States, Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, parts of North Carolina, South Carolina. Great domain of the Muskogee people in those days before the Europeans. So we made our living hunting and fishing the land, and just the life provided, up until the Europeans kind of messed it up for the native guys, because all we did was hunt and fish. Kind of like some of you guys now, all you do is talk. So, but the Europeans came, and they wanted to chop down the trees and open up the forests and plant crops. And so that kind of, put a lot of work on everybody, right? So the fishing and the hunting trips are all out. But, the Seminoles, they weren't Seminoles then, we keep using that word Seminole, but it's not even our word. It's a word that came to us by way of a Spanish word, cimarron, and untamed, and eventually it landed on us. But we never really called ourselves a whole lot of, unless we just called ourselves Muskogee. And but you'll see throughout history we're called all kinds of things, like Creeks. Where did that come from? Anybody know? John Smith, he was a British agent that was doing a lot of trading with the Muskogee people, and he asked them, "Where'd you come from?" And they said, "Oh, we came down 5 creeks, and we came here in our canoes." So eventually the creek word stuck, and our people were trading for muskets, and rifles. When the Europeans came here, they made our lives so simple, because all of a sudden we could lay our bow and arrows down, and we could pick up a musket, and we got really good with it. Now we're killing animals 100 yards away instead of sneaking up on them for a 30-yard shot with a bow and arrow. Now we're deep frying food in them big old pots, you know, like McDonald's French fries, you know. And we're just having a good old time, and then we wore a lot of skins and deer hides for our clothing, and then when the textile started to crank up here in the country, we started wearing cotton cloth. You know, here in Florida, he's got an example of his clothing of what you would have seen back in the late 1600s all the way up to 1830s. By the 1830s, everybody's down south. Guess what? It gets hot down there. I just came from there this morning, down in the Everglades, so it wasn't as cool as it probably was up here. Did y'all have any ice? No frost? Almost. But where I lived, it was 60 degrees. It was pretty nice, you know, and so climates change, and we change with it. Our appetite, our food changes. You know, everything changes when we got down into the Everglades. It was our last holdout, you know, and so, you know, the United States, they fight a Revolutionary War against the British, and Creek people kind of sat back and enjoyed the scene, you know, and watched the fight. And but the Cherokees did. The Cherokees took side. They took side with the Redcoats. If you've been to their museum, a lot of their museum is based upon English stuff that the king and the queen gave them good dishes, you know, and gorgets. You got gorget on front? Yeah, he's got those fancy gorgets. We like those, you know, we like to dress up, and that's what that's all about. Gorget is a French word for net thing, because if you're French, y'all were fond of attacking the castle. And when you attack the castle, you always protect your neck, because they got these little arrows, you know, and it bounces off protection. But when they brought them to America, it was a luxury item for chiefs, you know, because, like I said, we all like to look good, you know, and that's all it was all about, just show it off. So by this time, late 1600s, there's already Seminoles here in Florida, all the way across from throughout this country here. And because Cowkeeper, and then Ukulasti, he was down over there on the near I-75, called Gunjati, the Red Land. And so there was Creeks already established, already in here, and they were making their living as ranchers. So, you know, in our history, we always like to forget about the Spanish guys because of their brutality and their, you know, bringing in the diseases and wiping out a lot of the, you know, native tribes. But they did also do some other things well, as, you know, they brought the horse here, and they brought cattle, they brought farm animals, and eventually we depend on those today. We still depend on farming and agriculture, and that's what they brought the Spanish people with their priests and Jesuits and what have you, you know, to tame the country. So we don't want to make light of that so much, but the native people took advantage of it when they came into Florida, especially the early Creeks. early Muskogees, because there's an important date that rolls around. You know, we already had fought one little war with Andy Jackson, and you know, he didn't hang around long enough for us to get our hands on him. He just snuck in and snuck out. But you know, as a Native person, and I study a lot about different generals, and today I think about him and his mentality and his fortitude about what he thought and how he did things. Sometimes I wish today's generals would have that kind of attitude, you know, and because they just, you know, seek and conquer, you know, and that's what Andy was all about, the land, the people. So when he became president, he passed a law in 1830 called the Indian Removal Act, and that sparked a whole different new way of life for us, in which we actually, you know, went to war with the United States over it, and that was the coming of the Second Seminole Wars. And what that meant by signing that treaty was that from Maine to Key West, everybody east of the Mississippi River had to go west. So we have Trail of Tears. We call ours, I don't know. We're doing a reenactment. We had one of our ancestors was she was captured and she was kept at Egmont Key, and when she got on the schooner that was to take her to Indian Territory in Louisiana, a lot of the people got sick, so she got the captain to stop the boat and go and let some people go ashore. So she escaped, and we're reenacting that in December, and we're starting at Egmont Key. We just now discovered, I don't know why all of a sudden, these forts on the West Coast were more detrimental to Indians than the ones on the East Coast, like Fort Myers and Fort Brooks, because they were concentration camps, and they held Seminoles there and could be taken to Indian Territory from those islands. And Egmont Key was one of the main hubs that they held Native people on. And so she made her escape. They said there was 12. One was killed and some surrendered, but at least 7 escaped. So in the first of December, we're doing a reenactment of that boat ride to St. Mark's. And it's our contribution to the 500 years the Seminole tribe. So, if you have any questions, you know, feel free to pop up.
What is the date about reenactment?
Ma'am?
What do you have the exact date of the reenactment yet?
December 3rd. Same time as the National Farmers Rodeo. I hate that.
Ah.
So, yes.
How much did the Seminoles intermingle with the tribes that were here when the Seminoles arrived?
Say that again?
Well, the Indians were in Florida before the Seminoles, like the Tumaquan, not direct. Was there much intermingling between the two tribes or not?
Yes, I think so, heavily, because We obtained a map from the Hubble telescope, people, and it shows all the trails coming into Florida. And it appears that Creek people wintered here in Florida. So if you think you're the first snowbird, you're wrong. Because it was the Creek people that came to Florida. Because in the South, in Alabama and Georgia, there was snow there this morning, I think. So they would have been, ching, came back to Florida. So I think there was a lot, involvement of the early guys. Yes?
What was the name of your ancestor, and did she?
Holly Parker.
Holly Parker.
Mhm.
And did she remain then in Florida on the loose, or did she?
She did. She stayed in Florida till she died in like 1940 something. She's a very elderly lady. And I'm connected with her on my grandpa's side. But on my mom's side, I'm connected to Wildcat. So I got a lot of hostility in me. I have to be counseled all the time. It's psychologist. Yes.
How old was she when she escaped?
The report's out on that, I think she was pretty young. Probably a teenage girl. But we gotta always remember, she wasn't the only one, but she's the only one that spoke up. Because there was 6 more that was with her, 6 other families still in our tribe today that is connected to that. But a lot of people didn't say a heck of a whole lot, because that's our way. We don't do all these memorials and Veterans Days. That's not within us. When we do an act, we do our medicine, and then we're done with it. It's over with, and we go about our way. So, but she spoke up, and it was written. Yes, sir.
I was just going to comment about Egg-Monkey. I've been there, and there's a Seminole cemetery right next to the lighthouse on Egg-Monkey, and there's a ferry service that runs seasonally from Fort DeSoto Park, and it's about $30 per person. You can take the ferry over to Egg-Monkey, and you go, seashelling and tour the fortifications around the island. But there's a cemetery there, and there's a placard at the cemetery which lists there's about 5 or 6 burials of Seminoles that died during Egg-Monkey.
And Confederates, soldiers that died, because Robert E. Lee built that place. When he built Fort Myers, when he was still in Union.
Is Egg-Monkey the one that's been recently in the paper where they're trying to shore it up?
It is. They have a contract, the state and the government has a contract every 7 years. They dredge, and then they put that dirt back on it. Because I've been there twice this summer, and the first time I went, it looked okay. The second time, I could really tell the difference, that the erosion was really taking. So, doesn't matter. And so, the tribe is called out. What do you want to do with it? You got people buried there, you got a history there, and our chairman said, do we want to do this? Do we want to remember this? And I said, yeah, we want to remember it. We want to keep it alive as long as we can. So our kids will always remember it. Not only the Jewish had the Holocaust, but the Seminoles had a Holocaust. Here in America, nobody talks about the Seminole Holocaust, or any Holocaust that happened to Native people. Yes, ma'am.
When you say that you have a number of existing clans, would you define for me what makes up a clan and how it's delineated?
Okay. The clan system, you know, it's broke down like, with, the different animals. Like I'm a wildcat. My grandfather, he's a bird clan. And, in that clan system, you know, we're all together. We're like when I grew up, I lived in a matrilineal camp till I was 19 years old before I ever lived in a modern home. So I lived in a chicken. And I was raised around with my 8 aunts and their husbands and their children. So there was like 32 first cousins in the village. And we're all like brothers and sisters today because all of our parents are gone now. And now we're the senior citizens. You know, I woke up one morning and I'm a senior, you know, and so we're, you know, we lived in it. We lived in it, and that's how we, like I'm going to be a tribal judge, and I was talking to a friend of mine, and we never let our children get adopted outside of the tribe. Always the clan takes them back, takes them and raises them. Somebody in the clan will always step up and take those kids.
But those, your aunts, they were sisters, and their husbands came to that place, and if they had brothers, their brothers went to their wives'
Right.
place.
And my father never laid a hand on me. If I got punished, I got punished by my uncle. My uncle was one that taught me to be a good little Indian boy. And he sang all the songs to me. He made sure that we were all, you know, fluent in our language, which was the Creek language. So everybody in that hub there spoke very well. So you can imagine I'm a little first grader and I'm getting on the bus for the first time and I got long hair and, you know, and I got Wrangler jeans and a t-shirt and I smell like smoke. And I don't speak a lick of English. And I go to first grade in Okeechobee and my teacher wants to know who Willie Johns is, you know. You know, they got their roll, you know, Willie Johns, we're here, and everybody's looking like, oh no, you know, and all the kids scattered, like quails. So they had to gather us all back up. It was rough. It was like taking a bunch of wild animals to town, you know, back with a pickup truck. So I remember those were great days, living in the cheeky. I do now when I go to corn dance. I get to live in the cheeky for a week, and that's our church. You know, that's where we do our renewal, and we dance, we use medicine, and we thank God for another year, another harvest year.
What do you call Florida? Do
Gunfuski.
y'all have a name for Florida?
Gunfuski. It means sharp land. You know how it's like a dog leg, they always say? But we always thought it was, you know, we just, our language is descriptive anyway. You know, Creek language is like almost 60% verbs. So when I'm talking, we're in a group session, we're always striving, talking about different things. So that's how it is. You know, it's not like La Florida, you know, face of the flower. We never thought of that. We'd never dreamed that in a million years. we would have named it something like the Sea Cow or something. Shark Trail, or probably Anaconda Trail now, right? You know, big snakes, lizards down there in Florida. I lined out 7 of them the other day. They were coming, getting ready to cross the road, and I pulled my truck and trailer, and flop, 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 flop. I hate them. They don't belong here. It was iguanas. So the buzzards got a nice dinner.
What you described is just typical of what I read in this Forever Island, Alabama, his name.
Yeah.
Smith.
Right.
Yeah, and Lake, whatever. I mean, it's just come to life.
Sure. Patrick, he's really good, you know, about telling stories about Native people. Yes.
So you didn't speak English until first grade?
First grade.
And what about your parents? Did they know English?
A little bit.
Not much.
My mom could count, though. You couldn't shortchange her.
But you don't really quite have an accent. Just sort of, not much though. So you learned English pretty rapidly.
Pretty good, yeah. We did good. In our education system, we have it now where you take 4 years of Creek. You can use it for your foreign language or your language class. And then what you do is you use English as your foreign language. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I did that when I graduated from the University of Miami. You know, but they're liberal enough to do something like that, you know, at that time. So I didn't have to learn how to speak Spanish. I got embarrassed one time when I was a kid. My Spanish teacher always said I sound like a German trying to speak. Yes.
Did you get the funds to preserve the Red Barn?
Do what now?
I read in the paper, we're trying to preserve the Red Barn.
It is. It's now Federal Register, and we're refurbishing it. You know, it means it's a red barn. He's talking about a barn that was built back during the early days of the reservation. And you know, do you remember, some of y'all remember the CEE program where?
Let's see, Conservation Corps?
Right. They had an Indian group, and they came in there and they built a barn. And it's almost about like 75 years old, but it's part of our history, and we were about to let it go, and people rose up. So we had it placed on the registry, and I seen another one like it, just like it, and it's in St. Carlos, Arizona, on the Apache Reservation. And it was built the same way.
Where is this located?
It's at Brighton. It's called the Red Barn. It's a beautiful barn set in the hammock. And we do tours with it when we do reservation tours. So
How do you book a tour at Brighton?
just come to Brighton and ask for me. Yeah.
Is there a, been to the Off Museum, but.
You
in
can
Brighton,
go
is
through
there-
them too also, but that costs you.
In Brighton, there's a museum or?
Well, you know, we have a veterans building that we just built, and we're real proud of it. And it's in the form of a star. And with each point of the star is all the branches of service. See, this time yesterday I was at McGill giving the same talk, but there was like colonels and generals all sitting there, and I'm getting intimidated with them. You know, I tell them, I'm glad y'all weren't around. You would have ended the war real fast with your airplane. But then you got to remember, Kitty Hawk wasn't even around yet, you know, so.
Do you still write in your language?
We do. We,
Publishings?
you know, writing really didn't start until after the missionaries got a hold of us in Oklahoma. You know, and they wanted to write hymns, write passages, so that somebody that got saved, a native person, they could have a book to read to their families and such. So it drifted down into Florida. Here recently we started Southern Dialect Creek with the University of Florida, linguistic people. And so we also have to put it. But pretty much the same, you know. They sound like Georgia people when they talk, you know, with the Greek language, you know. It's kind of funny, but you know, here in Florida we have a drawl. We talk like Texans with our language. Yes, sir.
I hear the University of Florida all the time, the connection with the tribe. How much state connected? I know they're connected with the team, but how about education?
Education?
Yeah.
We're really connected with the state because we, throughout our reservation, you know, with our gaming monies, we were allowed to do charter schools on the reservations because our kids weren't mixing too good, so we kept them on the res. That's where I was brought up too, on the res, you know, with my own, and we teach the language. That's our goal. Above anything else, we don't care if they can't write or they can't count. Because like my mom, she didn't go to school, but by God, you could, like I said, you couldn't shortchange her. She knew what she had coming back to her at the McDonald's, you know. So we do the charter school. We invest heavily in education for our kids. You know, we want them to be the best because, you know why? Because eventually we want them to come back and work with us. We want them to graduate, and we really don't care if they come back right away. You know, we want them to go experience the world, you know, hang out somewhere else, go skiing in Colorado or something like that, or whatever they want to do. Just mature, come home and get a job with us. So it's worked for us like that. So it's been really nice. Yes, sir.
Your charter schools go to what grades?
They go to 12th grade now.
12th.
Mm-hmm.
I remember there used to be a time, was it not, when the Seminoles went to high schools?
With
public
the
high schools?
We went to public schools.
And they don't do that anymore? Or
Well, you can if you want to. A lot of them do, especially the sports-minded ones. You know, because I went to public school all my life because I want to play football. You know, I played JV football and I played all the way through high school football. And those are some of my most cherished moments, you know, when I run into old high school buddies. We all hit each other. Oh, no.
And how'd you get along in school, in the high school?
I got along pretty good. or, you know, there was a respect among the Caucasians and the Indians, because they always thought we had a scalp knife in our pocket. Yes.
Hi, I need to know the reference to Megasuki.
Megasuki.
Megasuki. And is Muskogee a tribe, or is it the language of the Megasukis?
Megasuki is a language in itself, and they are a tribe.
Megasuki is a tribe?
It is a tribe.
Okay.
They're smaller than us. You know, in the old folklores, it says that they were the people who followed the sun. So when they came to the East Coast, they run out of sun. And when they turn around and look, there was Creek people looking at them, Muskogee people. And instead
Where
of,
did they come from? The Megasukis?
we don't know to this day, and they don't know.
Oh.
You know, they were wandering around, like I said, they were following the sun. And so we sent them to Pensacola, Florida to die. We said, you can live over there, we won't mess with you no more. So the Creek Confederation at the time sent the Miccosukee over there. At the time, they were not Miccosukee, they were Hitchcock. I mean, in our language, in the Creek language means look at, or so we adopted them.
Chachi?
Hitchcock.
Hitchiti.
Yeah.
Okay. But that was that the, I thought that was a language, Hitchiti.
Hitchiti. That's, yeah, that's.
Is a language, right?
It is the
It is the
Miccosukee.
language of.
The Miccosukes.
There we go.
So the Megasukis went up into, I've seen that around town.
They hung out around there, and you know, and they eventually, when nobody was looking, slipped into Florida and went down into Miami, and they stayed there for a long time until the war came upon them. You see, they made a lot of money before the United States was the United States, before there was any kind of control with the Spanish. They traded with the pirates. Because where Miami is today, back then, you ever heard of a plant called quinine? But they made a lot of flour, and they traded with the pirates or whoever needed flour. And they made bread out of it, you know, or they made sake, and they drank it, and they ate it. So they lived there until we come running into Florida, and we brought progress, the army behind us. So they had to either, you know, pick up their gun or shut up, you know, or so they joined in with us, and they joined very strong here in the Oklawa and the Withlacoochee. You know, a lot of big cities did their finest hours there. Yes.
Was Chief Osceola a Miccosukee? From what I've read, he was a Miccosukee who came down after Andrew Jackson beat them in the Pensacola area.
Osceola, he's a Creek. He's from the Alligator clan. See, his name is not Osceola. It's Ashinyahola. Means the black drink holder. And in our ceremony, we had what they call the black drink. They had this tea that grew up in North Florida, maybe around here, the lilac, and they boil it, and they drink it. They said, man, it'll make you cut loose. You know, it'll make you sick. It'll clean you out. And that's the purpose behind it. And so nobody could say Ashin Yehovah, so they kept saying different things. And Asiola, Agalu, then came Asiola, and then Indians are looking at each other and say, what? Asiola, I thought his name was Ashin Yehovah, you know? So he had his brightest hours up here too, just in the woods, getting up, going home. And he's not our real hero. Our real hero is San John Abiaka. And he was a elderly man at the time, and he was a medicine man, and he's the one that held people together up until the last part of the Third Seminole War. He was getting senile, and the men started not listening to him and stuff. So he had a bad last half of his life.
Do you prefer the name Muskogee to Seminole?
I do.
Okay.
Because, because Seminole it's out there, The reason that the Seminole tribe is called Seminole tribe is when we were organizing in 51, we was put on a termination list. Federal government was terminating over 100 tribes. They were just going to terminate them and let them go into non-existent and get rid of them because, they just got over two wars. World War I and the Korean War. They had a war debt. So they were trying to shave money around. And so my reservation almost not happened. And so by doing that, we were put on a termination list because we didn't practice democratic voting. That we always led our people by the elders of the clans. So if there's an elderly woman that's in a clan, she would be their spokeswoman. So it was not necessarily always men. So, and that's how we led ourselves, and that's how we kept ourselves out of elections and stuff like that.
Was it like a consensus? The clan came to a consensus?
The clan ruled.
But I mean,
Yeah.
they came to a consensus
Nothing-
rather than a yay, nay vote.
Right. Because
Okay.
if one clan disagrees, it don't happen.
And Muskogee, the language of Muskogee Indians is Muskogee.
Right.
Okay.
See, the linguistic anthropologists, if you believe what they say that the Muskogee language is the parent language of the 5 civilized tribes. Now, you tell that to a Cherokee, they'll try to think you're a scout. Ain't no way, we're from Iroquois,
Yeah.
So, yes.
You say that the Seminoles are, that the Muskogees are a faction of the Creeks?
All right.
Okay, so there was the Creeks and the Muskogees were a faction, and
Remember, there was the white sticks and the red sticks. The white sticks, they loved everything about what y'all were about. The red sticks was against any kind of civilization. Remember, they attacked Fort Benning, destroyed it, killed everybody, even children, to stop the population from exploding. So the guys that came into Florida were red sticks, because the white sticks, they couldn't hang around with the red sticks. We're too gruesome. Yes?
I was gonna say, Lord willing, and the creek doesn't rise, I'll see you next whenever, has nothing to do with water.
Yeah, for real. So today, you know, we're a government within a government. We're a federally recognized tribe. You know, Washington, they'll let us do anything we want as long as we pay them. Give them a lot of money. And we learned how to fight you guys in Washington by your own rules. You know, we learned how to buy politicians. We learned how to lobby, and we played the game pretty good. And that's how we've been able to exist. We have a pretty daring chairman. You know, he's been in Vietnam like 5 times, and he thought it was wonderful there. And so he had a lot of fun and said, come back to America and have some more fun. And so he's definitely a warrior, you know, and after his own people. And that's how, when you talk about gaming and all that, we're the first tribe in the American that developed gaming as we know today across the United States, but not counting Las Vegas or anything. Even though we have a casino in Las Vegas.
How many are enrolled in your tribe now?
Right now, I think we just got 4,000.
Now, these are all descendants of the 300 or so
Of the, yes, sir.
The college last month gave a presentation. There was the director of the, named Susan Parker, who's the director of the St. Augustine Historical Society, and she gave a presentation about the migration of the Indians from the southeast coming into Florida. And she showed this in a PowerPoint presentation. She showed this document that was dated 1763 by Governor Moultrie, who was the British governor of Florida at the time. And in that document, I forget the name of the chief that signed it, along with the British governor, and she said that was the foundation or the starting date of what's known as the Seminole Indian Nation. No.
They've been coming into Florida since the late 1600s.
No, I mean, it was known as the Seminole. That was the,
well,
the beginning of
they weren't even using Seminoles then. Remember, Seminoles, that word Seminole doesn't come into effect till at the beginning of the Second Seminole Wars. And you know who they were talking about when when the generals was talking about Seminoles? They were talking about the Mississippi speakers. And that's who they called the Seminoles, the runaways. And the Creeks, they already knew who they were. You know, Wildcat and Alligator and Jumper and Osceola were all Creeks, and Aviaca, the whole gamut of warriors.
But she said that this document was purchased by Seminole Tribe of Florida back, I don't know, 2004 or something like that.
Yeah, I've seen it, yeah.
And the big site for the Seminole Division.
You know, I'm talking about documents, not to change the subject. We got one the other day from a family in Tampa. And it breaks down the families that were shipped out from Tampa by Miccosukee, you know, there was like 20 Miccosukes on board, and their families broke it down, even all the way down to their slaves that went with them. They had the slave list, and this kind, and we have it. We're trying to pull these Creek people out of there and go to Oklahoma with it and say, hey, is any of these people's ancestors still around? You know, see what happened to them, where they.
You mentioned the Oklahoma people. Do you have any formal connection with them?
They're the Hatfields. We're the McCoys. You don't come back to Florida if you took the boat ride, because you got paid off with land and money and whatever. So, yes.
How many tribes did you say went on that extermination list in 1951?
100. But we're the only one that fought it. This is where rodeo comes into why we're so popular with rodeo in our community today is we started putting on rodeos with the livestock we were raising for a fundraiser to send our tribal people to Washington to meet the president. And so from that point on, they got where they liked it and they continued it, and now we have a large rodeo cowboy contingents on the reservations. Yes?
Do any white people live on the reservation?
White people?
Yeah.
What's that? What was that?
People who are not of Native American descent.
Do they live on the reservation?
Yeah. Or only Native American?
Yeah, you know, we got a lot of our own bucks there. Go out there and run up a white gal and marry them and bring them in. And then kind of messes up things because your kids has no clans. And they can't go to the ceremonial grounds. Even though they're tribal members, the kids. But you don't have a plan, you're out. God won't look at you. Yes.
Even though they were born on the reservation, they can't.
They can't. And they're tribal members.
What if it were the opposite and the mother was?
Well, they have plans. But dad, he's out. See, if you don't have a plan, we don't allow you there. You are, it's our law. Yes.
Could you speak about Chief Mickinoki and Abraham?
Well, you know, Mickinoki, he's the father of the Creek people. And through his line, is King Philip. And then there's, and through that line is through, we talk about Cowkeeper, all the way to Wildcat.